Yo, 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 we back, baby. Alright, I took a day off to chill after talking for a billion hours, and now I'm ready to talk for a billion more hours. You guys ready? I'm ready. So what we're gonna do today is we're going to go over the survivors. So that is every single survivor and every single perk that they have. So obviously they don't have powers like the killers did, but they all have perks, and I'm going to go over what I would change about them. And then after that, I'm going to go to my other paper that's completely unrelated. None of this applies anymore. None of the perk changes apply in the other paper. It's just about how I would change gens given if perks were like the same. So yeah, that's it. Just again, quick little introduction in case you didn't come for part one. I recommend you go watch it, obviously, or you read it, the first part if you're going to read it yourself, because I mean that's just where I started. But if you only care about survivors, that's fine. Here are the survivors. Here's where it starts. Let's go. So, Dwight. Dwight, I just say make Bond base kit at 15 meters and then extend it to 40 meters because that's a pretty big buff for the perk. And sometimes it's annoying when you're running towards someone and then you just like fuck them up because you don't mean to run into them, but they're there. And like if you're at 15 meters, you still have to make quick decisions. Like you're far enough away that you can maybe do something or run back into the killer if you're just like, I'd rather go down than get this person caught. But it's not so close that it like doesn't matter. I don't know. It just doesn't really feel fair sometimes when you see someone, when you hear someone running towards you and you know they have no idea you're there and you're like, well, I either have to just hope that they don't come to me or I have to hide in a locker and waste my time or whatever, you know, because they don't know you're there. So that this solves that problem. And then obviously having it 40 meters means you have a lot of time to choose where you want to go and avoid people. Leader, the point thingy that you can do with one, I say make it do something. If you point at an object, now you do it 20% faster, and you can do it on anything that isn't a gen. So, and that includes killer powers as well. So I say that's obviously really powerful, so you only get one, which makes sense because it's a leader, right? I have a few perks like that where you can only have one in the entire game and they're just super powerful. I think that, especially for this one, you have to be near somebody, and being near somebody generally means that you're in a more vulnerable spot, so having this perk makes that better. And again, you can't do it to gen, so you can't just do a gen 20% faster with someone. You still have to be using Prove Thyself or whatever, because that would be silly. But you can do it on the exit gate, you can do it on lament configuration, you can do it on whatever, a vault location, you know. And has a cooldown of 30 seconds, so you can't just be walking with someone, like say with I forget what the perk is called, but the one where when you're close to somebody you can run at the same speed as them, Blood Pact or whatever. Like you can't just be running Blood Pact and also be pointing everything and then they just get to keep vaulting away. Like that'd be silly. So 30-second cooldown, and if you do it on a one-time use thing like a vault basically, then it goes away. So you can't just point and then they go through it really fast and then you point again and they go through it really fast, or it just like stays there for however long. Like no. Once you've used it up. Prove Thyself is good. We don't need to change Prove Thyself. Meg! Adrenaline! Just a small nerf. Once it's used up, no more exhaustion perks. I think it's so powerful. It's a huge comeback mechanic. You get to either get up or be fully healed when you get off the hook, or go from injured to fully healed. The only time it doesn't work is if they have like Terminus or something. And if they're choosing to run a perk to counter it, then it should counter it. Having the ability to not only fully heal, but then if you're able to hide in like a locker or something, or just go around the map, you know, doing stuff, whatever, running away from the killer, and then eventually being able to possibly dead hard or sprint burst or do whatever after the fact, after you've had that huge comeback mechanic, it feels like too much. I don't think you need that. You ran adrenaline, you know? I think that's enough. Even if somebody uses adrenaline, because it's so good, it like it feels shitty sometimes that I get this huge sprint burst, and then I'm at like a gate or whatever, and they're at the other gate, and then by the time they get back, I sprint burst back again, and it's like, what the fuck? Quick and quiet. I think just make it a little bit better, you know, especially with the new perk where you can go back and forth between the wall like 3 times from, I believe, Talita. You can go over a vault location really quiet. I think this would make it slightly more viable. Just a little bit better, you know, because it's nice sometimes, but it's not. You can't use it multiple times in one chase, almost, and it's like you want a perk to be useful multiple times in a chase, right? Like Windows is useful multiple times, or you want it to be super powerful like Sprint Burst or Dead Hard, right? If you can only use it once. So yeah, Sprint Burst obviously one of the best exhaustion perks in the game, but also has downsides, so fair, keep it the same. Botany Knowledge. I changed pretty much all of Claudette's perks because a lot of them have weird stuff. So Botany Knowledge is basically like after you complete a gen, you can place down a spot on the ground, and if you sit in it, it will heal you regardless of what you're doing. So you don't have to sit there and heal in it. It will heal you for you. But it can be destroyed like a boon, and it makes a noise like a boon. Basically, it's like you get to put a little tiny circle of healing in a spot, like old circle of healing, not the new one. And what that does is that'll just heal you. So it's super small, like 6 meters, so you can only have it in one spot. And generally, what you would want to do, right, is put it on a gen so you can be healing while doing the gen at the same time. So you'll probably get one use of it, and then they'll walk by the gen and they'll see it and they'll get rid of it because they can get rid of it like a boon. It's pretty much exactly what it's like. So yeah. Only thing is you can only have one if you're... You can only have one in the sense that you can only have one patch out at a time, so you can't get like 5 gens done, and if they just never snuff it, you can't have like 5 out at the same time. No. If you plan another one, the old one disappears. But also, you can only have one instance per game. So just like before, you can't have 4 people running this, 1 gen pops, and then there are 4 around the whole map that you have to worry about. Like, obviously that'd be ridiculous. 1 person gets this, 1 person gets the chance to be fully healed, basically, and if they're running like Prove Thyself, then they might have 2 people over there to go heal, whatever. But if you have 2 people in one spot, of course, you might both get down before you can heal. There's lots of back and forth, you know, same thing. I think it's just a nice, if you have a really small version of Circle of Healing, I think it's fine. The problem was that it was way too big and you could reapply it multiple times, so got rid of both of those. Really small area, you can't reapply it multiple times. You only get one area. And it only happens when a gen is complete, so you have to actually be doing your objectives. Lots of stuff. But I think that the concept was cool. It just needed a rework like this, basically. Empathy. You can see all injured survivors' auras. There's no range. The range basically is non-existent anyway. Most maps are like about 128 meters, maybe like 150, so you can see everybody anyway. Might as well just make it the whole thing. And healing an injured survivor cleanses all debuffs other than exhausted and killer specific ones like Plague or Sadako. Now it feels like you have more of a reason to run it. Like, being able to see injured people is fine, but you need to combo with other perks, so I feel like you should have one other benefit, you know? So basically reverse Septic Touch. You get rid of all people's debuffs if they have like hindered or incapacitated. I mean, it's hard to get incapacitated anymore, but you know what I mean. Anything of that sort, now you can get rid of it. Self-care. Other survivors can no longer heal you, but you get to heal yourself, and at a way faster speed than it is now. So, huge downside of not being able to be healed by other people. And you can't bring a medkit. And you'll never get a medkit out of a chest. So, basically, you're forced to only heal yourself with this perk. And you can still be negative affected by stuff like Sloppy Butcher and whatnot. So you really have to try this. Maybe get rid of the negative thing. I don't know. Maybe having 30 seconds permanently is long enough if you can't boost it in any way. It doesn't matter, like, if you bring perks or whatnot to boost it. Just say it doesn't get boosted. So those perks would be useless, or at least have that secondary benefit be useless. I'm not 100% sure whether you need to be still affected by things like Mangold and whatnot, but I'm going to have it in there at the moment. If they tried it out and it was too much, then they could get rid of it. 30 seconds where you get to heal by yourself every time is more than the current medkits, and those take a while, right? So if it had even longer, but you got the guarantee to do it, basically, then yeah. I think maybe it should be like 35 or 40 if they made it so you can't do it negatively. But right now, it would be like, what, 50%, right? So it'd be 45 seconds if you were mangled. I don't know. This would be a hard one to balance, but I think that, again, it would be cool if you chose to use a perk slot to basically have a huge downside of not being able to be healed by others, but you can heal yourself. Jake, Calm Spirit is quirky. It makes you worse at doing boon interactions and stuff, even though you're very quiet. But you don't scream, which hard counters some perks and some characters. Like, it just literally makes them useless. So it's like, do you really want to see it a lot? Because then you get into a situation where you as a killer want to do a build, you know, that involves a lot of screaming and stuff, and then it just like doesn't work, and you're like, well, never mind, I'm just gonna go back to my meta perks, you know, and that sort of is unhealthy and not fun. So spice it up. I still want to keep the interaction speed. I think 20% is too much, or maybe it's even 25. I can't quite remember, but reducing it to 15 I think is still reasonable, on top of making slow vaults a little bit faster. So you're basically just calm all the time. You know, you can do stuff slowly fairly well. I think that's fair. You'd have some situations where you can get away with slow vaulting that you couldn't before, but it's not like 50% faster or something insane, you know. Iron Will, current effect plus remove exhausted stipulation. If you're gonna make it either you have to make it 100% and keep the exhausted thing, or make it 75% and not make it so that exhausted stops it. You get one or the other. You can't have it the way it is right now. It sucks right now, especially if you're a sprint burst runner. Like, I like running sprint burst over any other exhaustion perk. It's like, man, dude, what what's the point of this? You know, it's frustrating that you can't use the perk that's not even that good, you know? So personally, I think keep it 75%. Make sure there is counter. It's just hard. But remove the exhaustion thing, so you can be exhausted and still have it working. Saboteur. Right now it shows hooks when a survivor gets picked up. Do it when they're in the dying state, so you have more of a chance. It's silly that they get downed and you're like, oh boy, time to use my ability. You're like, wait, where's the nearest hook? And then they start to pick up and you realize that there's a hook literally on top of them and you can't do anything. And you're like, okay, well, that's silly. Or you could have done something, but because they were picking up, now they're fast enough, they have agitation or whatever, and they make it, and it's like, alright, well, you know, the whole point of the perk is to be able to save people. I think make that better. There you go. Nia, balance landing. I think make it so that you always fall without any issues would be fine. You don't get the boost, but, or at least cut the negative impact in half or something, you know, because not even every map has the option to have balance landing, right? Like, half the maps don't even have a spot that's high enough other than basement. And so, like, what? You know, you're gonna fall from an area and then like into the basement and then run up into the killer's arms. Like, that's stupid. So the fact that you're running a perk that is possibly useless on like half the maps, I think that it deserves to be a little bit better, especially as an exhaustion perk. Exhaustion perks are like the defining perks, I feel like, per character. Streetwise, it's good. Nobody uses it because of reasons, I guess. I literally don't know why. I think it's super great. I think other perks people just like running more. They're more fun. It's just a huge passive boost. It's not as like interesting per se, but it's really good. So there's no reason to change it. The last one, Urban Evasion. Yay, this perk blows. Completely changed it. If a killer is in chase with you and they miss a basic attack within 3 meters, you gain haste for a little bit. So if they fuck up, you get a better boost than normal, which is great. You know, only activates once per chase. So you can't just like constantly spin people and then get away. Like, that'd be silly. But being able to get one big boost because you outplayed them with a spin, or they just messed up and they tried to swing at you and they just weren't close enough, you know, they made a mistake and they should be punished for it. And usually they do get punished for it somewhat, right? You get to get away a little bit, but this gives you a bigger boost. You're using up a perk slot that could have a powerful exhaustion perk or something of that nature to basically make this worse for them. So, yeah. Lori. Decisive Strike, buff it by 1 second. See where that goes. You know, it's right in the middle. It used to be 5 seconds. Destroyed everybody, and it used to work during the end game. It was evil. It was awful. Then they nerfed it to 3 seconds, and now it like doesn't work. So let's make it 4 seconds. So let's see what happens. You know. Now, especially with the end game nerfs and stuff, and then if that doesn't work, you can buff it again to 5 seconds. See what happens. 4 seconds sounds fairly long, though, for people to get away, unless it's a character that you weren't going to get away from in the first place, like Blight or Nurse or whatever, but Decisive Strike doesn't work against them even if you have it at like 8 seconds, so, you know. Object of Obsession, just make it a 10% boost to doing whatever you're doing instead of 6%, because them getting to see exactly where you are means they're probably going to come for you, so you should actually have the boost to work, right? And if they don't choose to come for you, then they should be punished, because they can see you. And they know you're there, right? Unless you're using distortion, I guess. But I'll use up your distortion tokens real quick. So, yeah. I think that's fair. Soul Survivor. I've changed, like, what it means, basically. You've been in this situation before, and you refuse to be the last one alive. So that's what the Soul Survivor thing is. So now it's an altruism perk. You do 100% better towards altruistic actions, but you're broken until you're on your second hook stage, so you can never be healed whenever you get hit, and it basically removes a hell state from you, so you get to be better at helping everybody else, but you yourself are worse off. So yeah, I think it's an interesting concept. You're better at helping other people survive, but you're less likely to survive, you know? It's sort of the inverse of what Soul Survivor does now. I think having a perk that makes the team live rather than yourself is better than having a perk that makes you live but everybody else dies, you know? Especially since it doesn't even really do that. It used to, back when the hatch, like, didn't turn on the exit gates when you closed it. You still had to do all the gens, but you don't have to do that anymore. So all the gens just finish, and then your perk is like half useless, and it's like, all right, whatever. So complete change. Ace. Ace in the hole. Opening a chest allows you to choose between an item now. It used to not do that. I mean, it still doesn't do that in the normal game. You just get a better chance at getting add-on, like, add-ons. Or item add-ons, rather. And that's silly. Again, I don't like luck. Luck is stupid. Get rid of luck entirely. It's not fun. So now you get to choose, but they don't come with any add-ons. So you get rid of the luck aspect, but you get to choose what you want. There you go. Now there's a reason to open chests as well. Because opening chests right now, unless you're a new player or you're doing a rift thing or whatever, there's like no reason. Open-handed. Current effect, but you also extend your aura rating by 2 seconds, so give you the lethal pursuer treatment, you know. It's not a super great perk. Not a lot of aura rating matters that much, so making it better, great. Up the ante. Changing it to all-in because of the way that the perk works now. It basically means like a similar thing, because in poker, upping the ante means you put in more chips. So this time, I'm just saying, put in all the chips. Just go all in, you know? If you're working on a generator by yourself, you can activate it, and it makes you do the generator 75% faster, which is crazy, right? But if you stop for any reason, then you will lose all the progress you gained while activating the perk, plus a flat 10% of total. So No one can join you on the generator while it's active. It has a huge cooldown of 150 seconds, and only one person can bring it. Because obviously, if 4 people brought it, you couldn't go to every gen. They would all pop like crazy, so that'd be ridiculous. Another one of those gens that you can only have one of in the whole game. So, what this does, right, is that you go all in. You go, I'm gonna finish this generator. And either you get it, or you don't. The only way you're allowed to leave is if you finish it. Otherwise, the whole thing blows up, and you lost so much progress, and you wasted so much time. So it really, really matters that you pick this at the right point. And you might just say, well, now I can finish a generator for sure at like 85% or 80% or whatever, when I wasn't sure I was going to before. And yeah, sure, you can, but you get way less of a bonus, way less of a benefit than if you were to use it really early on, right? And that's the trade-off here. It's 150 seconds, no matter how much you do. It's 150 second cooldown. So if you only do 1%, if you're at 99% and you activate the perk, still 150 second cooldown. If you activate it as soon as you get on the gen and you finish, still 150 second cooldown. Doesn't matter. So you're getting way less benefit if you do it later on. And to be honest, how many times have you hit 85% and they weren't like already aware of you or using Tinkerer or something to come get you? Like, or you were just nowhere around and you just finished it anyway. So like, sure, you can make it so that certain situations where you see the killer coming for you and it's like a trapper, so they have no mobility, and you know if you activate it you can get it faster, like sure, that'll happen sometimes, but that's a super small benefit compared to like what it has the possibility of doing if you choose to go all in. You know what I'm saying? It's a big gambler perk and it's skill based instead of the luck based up the ante the way it is now. Because you have to choose. You can do it on the first gen, but if they have Tinkerer, guess what? You're probably fucked. So that's a decision you have to make, right? It's a choice you make as a player. I'm gonna try and just hope, you know. Or you can wait until there's like 2 gens left, and then you know what perks they have, and then now you know if you feel safe or not to do it. But again, the trade-off is that there's less gens, so they might patrol yours faster. Lots and lots and lots of stuff to think over. I think this perk is really interesting and could do a lot. Maybe the numbers would need to be changed some. Maybe 75 is too fast. Maybe make it 60. I don't know. But I think the idea, the concept is really sick. Especially if only one person can bring it. Bill. Borrow time is awesome. Doesn't need to be changed. It's great. It does exactly what it wants to do. Left behind. Finding the hatch is super easy. You don't need to see the aura of it. And you can bring a key if you really want to. So, an item does what a perk does. Like, that seems goofy, so completely changed it. Now if you take a protection hit, the protected survivor will gain 10% haste for 5 seconds. They definitely get away, basically. You make sure they get away. Just like you do in Left 4 Dead 2. And Unbreakable, just make it a little bit better. Make you crawl slightly faster. I think it's a good perk, but the fact that it basically doesn't have the most useful effect, having a perk that works only when you're downed and only really does anything if you're slugged, is like, I feel like it needs a slightly bigger bonus. Yeah, of course, the actual getting up can win games, but that's why I'm not buffing that in any way, because that is powerful enough as it is. Feng Min, Alert and Life are both fine the way that they are. They do exactly what they want to do, and what they do can be useful if you choose to run it. Technician, though, is garbage. Only for newer players. Get rid of it. It's bad. It's a detriment to the team. So now when you use a toolbox, use charges at 50% the normal rate. There you go. That doesn't apply to the brand new part. Obviously, you use the 2 brand new part skill checks and then it's gone like normal. But anything else, use charges at half the normal rate, so you get more of a bonus out of your toolbox. David King. This was before the rework to Dead Hard. I think the rework to Dead Hard is fine the way that it is. You don't have to do what I did for this and for another perk. But I wrote this before the changes came out, and I think this is also an interesting idea. So I'd like to see it implemented, even if they keep Dead Hard the way it is now, and this was like a different perk. I still think it's worth discussing as an idea. So, Dead Hard, gain 2 extra health states. These states can be healed, but you take twice as long to heal, and you can no longer go into mending. You'll lose a health state instead. You get sacrificed on the first hook and can be moored in the dying state no matter what. So basically, people are always like, downing somebody who has more health states is ridiculous. It's super hard, and that's the reason why perks like Dead Hard and Original Medal of Man and stuff have been nerfed, because they're too powerful to have extra health states and like have no big downsides. So give it a big downside, I say. Make it so you have extra health states. Do the thing that's super, super hard to do. But guess what? You die earlier on. You want more health? Fine. But you have less stamina. That's the trade-off. I think this concept would be interesting to see, especially since this paper does take into account, this is still the same paper as the killer one, so this does take into account the changes to like Legion, for instance. So there's no like Legion does the mending thing on you and then he like hits you again and you like lose another, like that would be silly. So this way you get to have someone like have the ability to, well, whatever. I already read the perk to you. You can imagine scenarios where it's interesting. I don't know if it would be too weak or too powerful, or if it's just fine, but I think it's an interesting concept worth thinking about. No Mither. Turn effects, but you have full-on Iron Will, basically 100%, grunts of pain reduced, and a recovery speed is 75% faster instead of 25. Basically, if you down someone, you have to pick them up. There's no, oh, I'm gonna slug the guy with no Mither for a little bit. Like, no, you don't get that option. I think that's fair. They're running no Mither, so they're giving you a huge benefit. Like, you should have to pick them up and hook them. You don't get the choice to, oh, I'm just gonna make, the rounds while this person's down real quick before I go back and pick them up, because 25% isn't that much. And true, they might be running Unbreakable as well or something, and it's 55, or with this buff it'd be like 105, or rather 110. But like, who cares, slugging isn't fun. De-incentivize slugging. There's a few characters who need it, like twins, but otherwise, like, slugging is no fun. We're gonna live forever. It's really good, but start with a token. Make it so you can pick some up the first time and use your ability and actually get the benefit, Quentin, I believe they have different music. Let's see. Nope, I lied. Okay. Quentin, pharmacy's really good. Guarantees you get a medkit. Getting a medkit is great, especially a green one. Used to be better when they had more charges for yourself. Still really useful to have the ability to heal yourself at any time, basically. Great, and you can heal other people faster now too. Vigil's really powerful. It's one of the few perks in the game that gets rid of debuffs right now. I have, I've added some in this rework list, but there just like aren't any other passive ones really other than this in the actual game right now. I think it's a cool concept. Keep it. Getting rid of exhausted is fantastic. Wake up. You gain 5% haste when you're near an exit gate switch. And you get it while you're leaving the area as well for a short amount of time. Basically, it's like regionalized hope. So this will keep you able to like see the killer and be like, okay, I need to get out of here because they're coming. And you actually have a little boost to be able to get out of there. But you're assuming that you're going to make it to the end game. This perk doesn't do anything if you don't make it to the end game. So, are you really willing to give up a perk that you could be using in the main game to have a little bit of boost at the end? I don't know. That's your choice. That's your decision. Tap. Detective's Hunch. It's good, but just make it a little bit better. You know what I mean? So, just show what they have inside so you can tell whether or not you want to actually go get the item that's in there. And dungeons will show their current progress while you can see them. So that way you know if you're in a non-swift, what gens are close to being done, where you should go, all that jazz. Just make it even better what it already does. Stakeout's good the way it is, don't need to change it. And Tenacity's pretty good, but I lied. It's not. I forgot what Tenacity was for a second. It's really bad. Being able to crawl faster and recover while crawling is like not that useful unless you pair it with a bunch of other perks like Flip Flop and Unbreakable and all that stuff. And you basically have to make your whole build around guessing that the killer's going to try to slug you. And if they don't, well, guess what? Now your entire build is worthless. So I think that should be buffed. And the way I would buff it is make it so that you get an extra 10 seconds per stage. That's tenacious. That's a big deal. Extra 10 seconds per stage de-incentivizes camping. All my homies hate camping. So, making it so that you can't camp as well, great. Fantastic. Let's move on. Kate. Boil over is garbage. And I hate seeing survivors run it because it makes me feel bad for them. So, make it better. If you knock someone into a wall after the first 1.5 seconds, where basically the killer is getting their bearings and realizing what's going on, then 10% recovery progress is gained for yourself. Now the killer has to decide where they want to hook you, which is what the point of the perk is in the first place, basically. Except right now, what it does is it just hides the hook that they probably saw before they picked you up, or that they can still see because it's in line of sight and then it like doesn't do anything. Or you abuse the fuck out of it because you go to the top of Erie and then they have to drop to hook you, and then it's like, okay, well, now I can't do anything and this is unfair and I have to slug you forever. So have fun with that. And that's like not fun. So let's keep the current effects, but make it so that you can run into walls, which now forces the killer to think, hey, do I want to go hook at this scourge hook in the middle of this tile where she might wiggle out because she slams me into a bunch of walls with her massive boil over skibbity doo-dah? Or do I want to just hook out in the open but not get my scourge bonus because I don't want to run into walls and have her possibly get out? Like, okay, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I hate the fact that when you drop, you gain the 33% boost, but also it's like, that's a big reason to run the perk. And there are times when you can drop and still get somewhere, you know? It's... I'm gonna get rid of it. Remove 33% gain upon drop from grade height. There we go. Because it's just like, that's not fun. Like the survivor just goes up top and then they sit there and you're like, why are you sitting there? And you pick them up and you're like, oh, that's why, because you ran into a corner on Erie or on the Macmillan map with the factory. I forget what it's called. And now I have to drop down this ledge if I want to make it to a hook in time. But I also can't because this one perk that you happen to get this one map for, or you brought a map offering because you're evil. You know? It's just too much, I think. That's not the fun part of the perk. Dance with me. Current effect, but it's better. I think 5 seconds for removing scratch marks is almost necessary to get any benefit out of it. 3 seconds is not enough. So, there you go. Windows of opportunity. I want to keep it unchanged, but it's hard, man. Windows is too powerful. It's so powerful. It's ridiculous. It feels like you have to run it to get a valuable benefit when you're not in a Swift. Like, it's so powerful, but at the same time, it's like, how do you nerf it, you know, without making it useless? Like, you're like, oh, it's only active for the first 5 seconds of chase. Like, okay, well then it's like useless. The whole point is that you can do really long chases with it, you know. So I don't know how I would change it, if I would change it. I think it's like in a rough spot where it's powerful enough that it feels like a problem, but it's not actually powerful enough that like you can do anything about it without making it worthless. So I'm gonna keep it the way it is for now. I mean, again, I'm not like an actual developer. I don't get to change anything. These are just thoughts. But yeah, Adam, autodidact. I would change it around. I would make it so the healing stuff still happens, but you start like 1 level better, basically, but you get 1 level less at the maximum. So you start off at 10% removing progress instead of 20, but the maximum you can get to is 20%. And it's per survivor. Whereas for gens, it also works now, and it works per gen. So if you get a great skill check, it removes 1 the first time, but then it's 0, and then it's 1, and then it's 2. So getting 2% can be really useful on top of stuff like stakeout and, you know, hyper focus and all that jazz. So. Deliverance, obviously one of the most powerful perks in the game, but it's very balanced. Keep it the exact way it is. Diversion's garbage. It's funny, but it's garbage. So getting rid of it, changing it. Maybe you can keep the rock thing if you want because it doesn't do anything. I don't know. But actual power is you are the bait so your friends can live. While being chased, if there are no other survivors within a 50-meter radius of you, all other survivors gain a 3% speed boost to repairing gens and 10% to healing. And great skill check to give you an extra 1% progress. So if you really go out of your way, if you force a killer into a spot where they're in a bad position, now your friends really get a big benefit, right? Because the whole point of doing that is to get the benefit of, hey, you can do gens and heal while I'm over here, you know? So now you make it better. It's just a buff to something you already want to do, basically. Jeff! Breakdown and distortion are fine. I don't need to talk about them. Removing a hook for like 2 minutes is powerful, but not so powerful it's broken. And being able to hide your aura is powerful, but not so powerful it's broken. There you go. Aftercare, though, it's like... it's fine. But I say, why not make it so that an unhooked survivor automatically heals? You know, after 30 seconds. That gives the killer time, unless they're running, like, you know, off the record or whatever, to find them and try and tell them, and then they might get healed out of mending, but they won't get healed out of, injury, so they're still injured. So if the killer really wants to hard tunnel them, doesn't punish them too bad unless they're running something like Dead Hard. But then you have to time Dead Hard right, and you only get the 1 chance, so it's like, eh. And if they don't go into mending, then they get the heal bonus. So as a killer, you have a choice now. Like, do I want to hit the person that's coming off of hook, just to make sure that they don't get aftercared or whatever? Or do I want to go after the healthy person and then just get the person who has aftercare out of the game? You know, a little bit of a choice. Jane! Head on only stuns you for 3 seconds. Did you know that? That's ridiculous. That's Decisive Strike. We all know how bad Decisive Strike is. So, up it, especially since you have to get out of the locker and still play that animation all the way. Like, geez Louise, man. Bad perk. Buff it. Poised. After a gen is completed, you will no longer leave scratch marks until injured. Right now, that's exactly what the perk is, except it only lasts for 7 seconds, which is stupid. Who was like, ah, yes, this needs a time limit. Like, what? It's so useless unless they're coming for your gen and you're around a corner so they don't see you yet, and then you use it to run somewhere and they're still far enough away that they can't like round the corner and see you running away or hear you, but there's enough walls in the way that you can run somewhere without going out in the open. Like, it's like so specific. It makes no sense to me that it has a time limit the way it does. So this way, now you have a big bonus for completing a gen, doing one of the objectives. But if you do a bunch of gens really close together, like if you pop your gens at the same time, then you've quote-unquote wasted potential of the perk. But at the same time, you still get a big bonus of not leaving scratch marks until you get injured. Great. And that means once you're injured, they leave scratch marks, and then if you get healed at any point, you still leave scratch marks as well. Like, not like after one gen is completed, now you have a mega buff forever. Like, once you get injured, the effect ends, basically. Just to be clear. Solidarity. When someone heals you, or when you're healing someone else, they gain healing progress at half the rate. Right now, this perk is silly. Same thing like Poised. It's like fine, but this is way better. Because it doesn't work if they have Sloppy Butcher. Still useless if you have Hemorrhaging and then you lose all your progress, right? But if they don't, then you get half of the healing. So you can be healing someone and then they can heal you at like essentially double speed, which is super duper powerful. Clearly. You stand in with someone. I think that's too powerful. I want to make it 1/3. I was just thinking about how powerful that is, and I was like, holy shit. If you're running like We'll Make It or like anything, like that would be crazy. Just no. I changed my mind. 1/3. That's plenty. That's 33%, and you heal faster still, and just no. Yeah, that's fine. Still, way more powerful than the old version of the perk. Go away. There we go. Ash. Does he have different music? I don't remember. Nope. Nobody has different music, man. What is this? Buckle up. It's fine. Nobody really uses it because it used to be hot, stinky poo-poo garbage. It was like useless. And so they buffed it, and now it's like, okay, but still, you could run other perks. So I say buff it just a little bit. Now you heal people a little bit faster as well. Not a ton, but this makes it a better combo perk with those perks that do make you pick up people faster. Flip-flop. Just change it. It's not fun to have someone run flip-flop and power struggle and to be like, well, now I have to slug you because you know they have it. You know? Like, again, anti-slugging. Get rid of slugging. Nobody likes being slugged. So, instead, now your controls are reversed. And the game tells you that your controls are reversed, but you have to think about it. Thinking that one direction, either up and down or left and right, is reversed isn't that difficult, but doing both at the same time is hard. So, knowing that if you want to go up left, you have to press down right, will throw people off. Plus, if you do run something like Boil Over with it, and then there's a ton of sway back and forth, then it'll be really hard to know where you're going. The better you are at the game, obviously less this will affect you. But if you're not paying attention, and you don't see the thing in the corner that tells you that they have flip-flop, or like you just don't pay attention, whatever, you're like listening to music, and then you're like, why am I walking backwards? You know, it could throw you off and get them out once. There you go. Metal Man. This is like Dead Hard, but you only get one extra health state. So healing is 66% efficient instead of half efficient. You die on your second hook stage instead of your first hook stage or your third. Same thing, you can't go into mending. You'll lose a health state instead. There you go. I get rid of the Mori thing because I think you should be able to probably get out if you only have 2 health states. But it's like, it's the same deal basically. It's like a more in the middle version of my version of Dead Hard. So there you go. Similar deal with Dead Hard. You have an effective, basically, you have the same amount of health states, assuming that you never heal. But you can have more, assuming that you do, and you never heal as the other one, right? And you can heal faster as this one, so it's more viable for you to heal, right? There you go. UE, any means necessary, is fine, so is Lucky Break. I mean, any means necessary is bugged right now, but when it's not bugged, it's fine. And Lucky Break is fine. It's the better version of Poised, basically, right now. Obviously, Poised in this rework would be a different kind of perk, but currently, Poised is basically a shitty Lucky Break, so Lucky Break is good. Breakout! Current effect, and you can see the hook nearest to the killer's current location while the perk is active, so only when you're near somebody. You can't just like see it always. Obviously that'd be like a mini aura reading, that'd be silly, but once the survivor's picked up, you can see the perk that's nearest to the hook that's nearest to the location, so you know where they're probably going to go. They might not, obviously, especially if they see that you have breakout. They might like fake you out and like do like a back turn or whatever, but there's a bigger reason why you use breakout is to get people off the hook, right? So if you want to know what hook they're going to. Otherwise the perk becomes a lot less useful. Serena, for the people, super powerful perk. Super balanced, don't need to talk about it. Off the record, lower it to 40 seconds. You don't need 90 seconds of endurance. Are you kidding me? 40 is beyond plenty. I'm saying still keep the aura reading to 90 seconds. Like, that part is fine. It's just that the endurance is so long. You should not... You still can't wait out 40 seconds and be fine. Like, you have to hit them at 40 seconds. I just don't... Basically, I just want to make it so that they can't, like, buzz around your head like an annoying little bee for 90 seconds if they so choose. And then, like, have a sprint burst 99 or whatever and then just run away. You know? Like, that's ridiculous. So, just lower it some. It's already an insane perk. Red herring. Scratch marks no longer...
Contest? Come on, let's go.
That's funny. I haven't ever heard him say that. I guess I'll change it. Change it to Cheryl. I think... Surely Cheryl has her own music. Oh my god. What is this? And a red herring. Scratch marks no longer follow you exactly. They spread out within 10 meters of your location. It's basically a red herring of where you are. That's what the perk's name is. Make it better. Cheryl. Blood Pact. Increase the range to 20 meters, but remove verticality. The fact you can do it through floors on Midwich is silly. But to compensate for getting rid of some interesting niche uses like that, just make it bigger. Make the range bigger. That way it's easier. Also, if you really wanted to, you could have a visual indicator. I think that might be a little bit too strong. If you can tell exactly where you're allowed to go, so you can skirt like 19, 18 meters away from each other. You know, I think that would be too much, but hey. Who knows? Possible buff there as well. Repressed Alliance. This perk has a concept that is kind of cool, but it just doesn't work. So, that's why I would change it. I like the concept, so I want to rework it into something more offensive, as opposed to being defensive in a game where you just like can't really be super defensive as the survivors. So, this perk starts at 0 charge, but after being chased for 40 seconds, the perk becomes charged. Next time you're healthy and repairing a generator, if you use it, you add 20% to the gen, and you block it for 10 seconds, but you're broken and injured until you enter the dying state. And they'll know that you've used it because a noise will play. They won't know where it is, but they'll know that it's been used. What this does, essentially, is if you really need progress, like right now, and you're someone who like hasn't been hooked, you've been good at chase or whatever, then you have the option to be like, all right, next time I get chased, I'm just gonna make it so I go down, right? I'm probably gonna go down, and I have no way to get healed to make it so I don't go down, but we're gonna get this gen done, which we need to do. This is a great way to break 3 gens. If you've been chased, now you have this perk, you can use this. It can completely break a 3 gen, like almost entirely, if you had 4 people run it, of course. That would be a little crazy that all 4 of you were broken until you got down, but hey. And then if they try to slug you and then you get picked up, or someone uses 4 people on you, whatever, then hey, now you can use it again, you know, if you charge it again. You have to charge it every single time, clearly, if I didn't make that very clear. I'll write it in even. Perk charge resets to 0 upon usage. There you go. Slow guard. You now recover a little bit slower, and it gets rid of all the boost, but you can pick yourself up always. So, sort of like the inverse of no mither. You can always pick yourself up, but you recover slower instead of faster, and your downside is not your health state. In fact, that's the upside, so you get to keep your health states. You don't have to be injured like you do for no mither. So, pretty self-explanatory why that could be useful. If somebody slugs you for a really long time, you're basically guaranteed to get up. But if somebody chooses not to slug you, or they slug you for a while, but they notice you have this perk, you've like used it once already, then they can slug you for longer, and then they pick you up like near the end. Felix, built to last, is powerful. Recharging items is powerful. Don't need to change it. Desperate measures. This perk is stupid. So is visionary. So fix it. Current effect. Just make it hella powerful. Right now, it's like 10 or 15% per survivor injured or something. And that's not enough. Make it 25. Make it so that you get people off the hook and heal people like a motherfucker. I think it would be hilarious. And you have to be injured, so you have to be in a bad position for it to activate. So getting out of a bad position is the point of perks sometimes. Like these. Bathroom break. I'm gonna mute. I'll be right back. You know, I actually forgot to put in my be right back thing. I used to have it, and then I had to reset my stream elements at some point. So I guess it went away. That's why it said that's why I said starting soon, even though obviously I've been here for a while. Anyway, real quick, I don't know if anybody's ever told you how amazing bidets are, but holy fucking shit, if you don't have a bidet, get one right now. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but especially here in America, like, nobody uses bidets. Nobody knows about them. Everybody's like, oh, they're weird. They're creepy. You dog, it's literally the cleanest I've ever felt in my whole life. I've been using a bidet for like 2 months now. When I have to go to a place without a bidet, I'm like, oh my god, this is awful. This is like the worst experience of my whole life. I'm exaggerating a little bit for funny, but like seriously though, you should get one. You should check it out. You should try it out. It's an experience. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna go back now. This for measures, we already talked about it. Visionary. You're able to plan ahead and foresee problems. The aura of all generators are revealed to you at the beginning of the match for 8 seconds. And you can mark a generator with a bright light, similar to the map add-on, within 4 meters of it. Basically, you get pings in the form of a perk, because they're not adding them. They're not adding pings. So here's what you get. You can make it light green or red. Oh, you can make it green or red. My bad. The light is green or red. Sorry. Green means that you should work on this gen. Red means watch the fuck out. Don't do this gen. You can use that for various reasons. You can be like, hey, come here, because I have proved thyself. Or you can be like, come here, because this gen is almost done. You know, reasons like that. Or you can be like, don't come here, because the killer's nearby. Or don't come here, because if you finish this gen, then we'll make a 3 gen. You know, there's lots of reasons to signal that. Obviously, people can just ignore you. But, like, if you're confident enough to bring Visionary over other perks, then maybe they should listen to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to choose not to have another perk to bring this perk. So, I don't know. Elodie. Appraisal. You have an eye for details others miss. After opening a chest, you can upgrade the item to 1 rarity higher. It takes 20 seconds, and if you stop it, the action goes back to 0. So, if you're like 18 seconds in and then the killer hits you, well, too bad. You lost everything. Because upgrading an item is crazy, and you can only do it once. It says 1 rarity higher, and it means that. So if you get a yellow medkit, you can only go to green. You can't go to purple and then like make like an iridescent one or whatever. Like, no. Purple is still the highest. You can only go from green to purple at the max, and you'd have to get a green one out, which means you'd have to run pharmacy. So, yeah. Deception. Yeah, does the current effect is the locker thing, and it makes it so that you don't do any grunts of pain for 100%. 100% your grunts of pain are repressed. Jesus. If a killer checks the locker within 7 seconds, so basically during when your grunts are suppressed and then slightly after, it take an extra 2 seconds to complete the action, unless you're actually in there. Like if you used it and then you like got in during the time or whatever, then it doesn't do anything. But basically if you fake it, you can make them take extra time to search the locker because they really think you're in there. They're like, what the hell is like a secret panel or something? And they like knock on the back. I don't know, something like that. Power struggle. Heard about this from a few people where you can be in situations where like power struggle is actually impossible to deal with, like if you're using a ranged killer or if you're using the twins at all, then you can't pick someone up in time. They're just, if they're near a pallet or under a pallet, like you'll not get there fast enough. So I wanted to change it. Whenever you're picked up off a pallet, you are presented with a skill check. Hitting the skill check makes you knock the pallet back up so the killer can't break it. and the pallet can then be used like normal after 2 seconds. They can't use it. Basically, the reason why there's that is so that you can't pallet save. You can't like have someone nearby, force yourself to get picked up, and then have somebody knock it up, and then they knock it down on top of the killer, and then you get away. Right? That would be too much. So, yeah. Whenever you're picked up through any other vault location, so not pallets anymore, you can increase the wiggle percentage by 15% and cause the killer to take longer to get a hold of you. Grabs become more lenient for killers. So normally, only for you. So normally, that would be a bad thing, right? You don't want to get grabbed. But in this case, you would rather get grabbed than get downed any other way. If you were going to get downed anyway, might as well make it a grab, right? So, because then you get the extra wiggle bonus. So still, if you're not near any vault locations or anything, then it won't be useful. But if you are, then you can get a little bit extra. And the reason why this is more okay than the other perk I talked about, Boil Over, where you fall, is because vault locations are often still near a hook, like all the time. Up in the air, though, there's not that many hooks. There's like one hook on Eerie up top, and I don't even think it's a guaranteed spawn. On the Ironworks, it's the same thing. There's one hook sometimes up there, and so it's like, it's not. Actually, I think there can be one outside as well, so that's two possible. But like, they're not always guaranteed. It's a problem. Whereas this, you do it at shack, like basement could be there, or there's a hook like right outside. Like, basically, it just gives you a slightly better chance, especially if they were in a bad position to begin with. Like, say they messed up their hooks and they used two hooks right next to there earlier. You know, stuff like that. Yeah. Makes it so Saboteur is better. You can run Saboteur builds with your friends, stuff like that. Yunjin Lee. Fast track, you refuse to collaborate with others because you want all the glory. So you perform non-altruistic actions faster, but you can't do anything collaborative. You can't work on gen with somebody. You can't heal somebody. No. You get all the credit. Nobody else can help you. And you do altruistic actions slower, and you can't equip boons because those are altruistic. So, basically, you're better at everything except healing and saving people and all that jazz. Anything else, though, you're better. You do gens better. You open chests better. You do, what do you call it? Open the thing, the gates better. Oh my god. Apparently I shit out my brains, bro. I can't think anymore. I was doing so well. Okay, it says perform all non-truistic actions. I was thinking not chase actions, so I wasn't thinking like, oh, you do vaults faster. Maybe you need that, though, if you do... No, if it's only 35% slower on non-altruistic non-chase actions. There we go. That's what I meant. So anything other than that, you do faster. I would say slow vaulting is a non-chase action as well. Just so we're clear. But medium vaulting and fast vaulting are chase actions. So starting out a pallet, all that stuff. Yeah, there we go. I think that's fair. Yunjin is selfish. Self-preservation. It's a bad perk, but like, there's no way to change this really without being super evil to one side or the other. So I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. It's fine with her personality. I think it's a funny perk. Has some use. So yeah. Smash it, make it 5 seconds instead of 4. Smash it, it's like, alright, you're already gonna get the distance because of the pallet. So you don't want distance, like, you don't want the speed boost to run to the next pallet. You could do that anyway, basically. You want the speed boost to run 2 pallets away, or 2 loops away, so that they have to take longer to get to you. Or maybe you can even get to 3 if you're lucky and you're on a crazy map or something. That's why you want till you smash it. So this just makes it more likely to do that. Or you could just super get away. Jill. Blast Mine. It's funny. And it's kind of good. It's not perfect, but it's kind of good. So we'll keep it. Counterforce. That is the one where you do a boon, or rather you do a cleansing of a totem, and then you do cleansing faster. You also get to see the furthest totem after you do it, so you can keep cleansing totems, but that's silly. So instead, now you do the aura of any hex perks are shown to you. That is powerful. Being able to do them faster on top of seeing where the next one is very powerful. Now, of course, if this becomes a meta perk, then Haunted Ground will become a meta perk. So that can cancel it out on top of stuff like Undying and Thrill of the Hunt. So if it's not meta though, then it can be a bonus. It's like it goes up and down, you know? I think it's an interesting concept. Resurgence. If an on-hooker unhooks you, then, or rather, okay, I can just say if someone unhooks you, then you can see the perk icon in the bottom right, so you're not like, wow, I didn't know. Now you have to know. So if you don't notice, now it's your own bad, instead of being like, oh, well, I didn't see the, like, frame of your health bar before I started to run away, you know? Leon, Bite the Bullet is good. Flashbang is like, okay, again, it's kind of funny. It can be good. You can use it for good stuff, so keep it, even though it's harder to use than other perks. Rookie Spirit is only good for people who are new to the game, the way that it currently is. So that's, like, fine-ish, but why not also make it good for people who have been playing for a while, you know? So with that in mind, it has the normal effect, but you can also see gens being worked on by other survivors and generators that aren't regressing. So you can see everything. Regressing generators normally, and generators that other people are working on. So you can choose where you want to go. Huge information perk, but you have to hit 3 great skill checks now instead of good skill checks. I think it's 5 good skill checks. Whatever. Michaela! Circle of Healing. Keep it the way it is now. They fixed it. They made it good, but not overpowered. Great. Shadow Step. Current effect, but pools of blood, grunts of pain, and screams are also suppressed. Having your scratch marks hidden, but being a loud ass David or something doesn't help you. You have to play Ace or Ada or someone super quiet if you want it to actually matter. So just make it so that it works the same for everybody. There you go. Clairvoyance is fine. It does what it wants to do. And you can use the attack where you like go through people. Jonah. Boon Exponential. While this boon is active, you can recover faster and pick yourself up from the dying state, regardless of your position on the map. But you can only place it once, and it can't ever be moved. So, if you bring other boon perks, you can still place boons down, but it won't have exponential anymore. You get boon exponential one time. And even if you do, like say boon another totem, while exponential is still active, exponential will just disappear. It'll be gone. You just used it already. So you have to leave it in one spot if you want to use it. What this does, right, is makes it useful always. Because the problem right now is you're even on Midwich, one of the smallest maps in the game, and you find the boon exponential and you're like, cool, I'll go down over here, and then you don't because you can't, because you can't always choose where you want to go down, right? It can be useful every now and then, but not only does this rely on the killer slugging you, but it also relies on them slugging you in an area, which is like, there's too many conditions. So make it so that if they try to slug you anywhere, that it works, but they can get rid of it one time, and then yeah. I don't have this set as one of the perks that you can only have one of. So everyone can have one, and then place it down in different spots. And yeah. Corrective action. You cannot fail skill checks. The way it works right now is other people can't fail skill checks if they're working on a gen with you. It's garbage. So, now you can't fail skill checks. And if you miss one, you won't lose any progress. So there you go. That's a lot better for newer players. They still have the benefit, or rather, the demerit of having the whole animation play. They don't get to be working on the generator during that time. It doesn't do any progress, whatever, until the animation's over, but they don't lose a ton of progress. However, you can't ever hit great skill checks anymore. And if there are great skill checks on other things, then those are going to be different, and the same thing applies to special skill checks. If you miss a special skill check, it will still blow up. That's the point of the perk. Merciless Storm and Overcharge and stuff like that. If you miss it, then it will still blow up. That would be a way too big a counter for those types of perks. So, yeah. Overcome's good, though. It's not as used as the other ones, but that's because it's like... It's on Jonah, for one, and for two, it's like Sprint Burst and Lithe. So we have two already that are very similar, and they're also on characters that are like free. So Fungmin's not available to everyone. Like, I didn't start with her because I'm on PC, but all console players have her to start with. I think if you have even like, there's like a different version of DBD on PC you can get that also starts with her and stuff. So, oh shit, did I get kicked for being like inactive? It says that my internet went out, but I'm still streaming. Oh, is today Tuesday? Let's see. Yeah, today's Tuesday. Okay, that's what's going on. Alright, well, you get to listen to this music then instead. Steam servers are down. Yoichi! He has a really fun one. I really like making this perk. So Dark Theory right now makes you like slightly faster or something. It's like not useful at all. So now you get a huge boost with a huge con. Huge boon, huge con. It has 24 meters. And while you're in the radius, you start getting a debuff, which makes it so that you lose a health state and you don't get speed boost or endurance if you lose a health state. Whenever you leave the area, it'll take 40 seconds to go down if you were at max. Of course, if you're at max, it resets, but whatever. You know, like, it takes 20 seconds to activate, and the debuff icon will begin filling up on the right side of the screen, like where exhaustion goes and stuff. But the boost is that you get 10% haste. If you're gaining the debuff, you also get 10% haste. It takes twice as long to go away as it does to show up. So if you had 10 seconds of the debuff, then it takes 20 seconds to go away. That's why I said max is 40 seconds. Yeah, give a little description there. If you have 3 seconds or less of the debuff, then you can just turn it off. So if you don't want to deal with figuring out whether or not you can do the time it right of when you leave the boon and stuff, you can just turn it off, not think about it, not get the bonus, not get the debuff. Just, yeah. Because I know some people will be like, this is way too much for me to think about on top of being in the middle of a chase. I don't want to think about it. So the hex will be blue and, or rather the boon will be blue and red, like you can see them like twirling together or whatever, so that you know that it's there, and then when you run into it, you can just hit the button to turn it off. But yeah, basically, huge bonus, huge downside if you fuck it up. Empathetic connection. Current effect, but remove the range restriction. I don't know why some of these perks like empathy and stuff, empathetic connection, have range restrictions. I think it's silly. Parental guidance. You have inherited the ability to hear the dead, and now the dead warn you of danger. Killers that are undetectable now emit a terror radius at 10 meters that you can only hear if you have this perk equipped. There you go. You want to counter undetectable killers? You suck at telling when there's a ghost face or a wraith nearby, or you've just had too many wraiths using the invisibility bell? Well, problem solved. Not the invisibility bell, like the quiet bell, the silent bell. There we go. They're all invisibility bells. But yeah, obviously, this only works on killers that are undetectable, so you don't get to know what killer you're going into beforehand, or if they're going to be running any perks like Insidious that make them undetectable. So, hey, if you choose to run this perk and it doesn't work out for you, cool. But if it does work out for you, then you get a bonus. There you go. Patty. Inner focus. You can see the scratch marks of other survivors, and standing on them reveals the killer's aura for 3 seconds if they're nearby. This is a 40-second cooldown, so you can't just sit on them for like ever and constantly see them. That would be silly. But yeah, right now you can still see other people's scratch marks, but it doesn't do anything. Instead, it has a different ability that like doesn't matter, so just got rid of it. Completely reworked it. Overzealous. They buffed it in the recent patch. It's good. We like it. Residual manifest. If you have a flashlight equipped, the next time a killer tries to read your aura, they'll read it from 10 seconds ago. So it's a residual manifest. So yeah, that's better than finding a flashlight every single time. Some people don't like flashlights. I don't really like using flashlights that much. I feel like they're more of a problem than they are useful. They make you just run out into the killer's face for no reason. So this gives you a reason to run a flashlight if you don't like running flashlights the normal way. Ada. Low profile. You do not leave scratch marks unless you're injured, but if you're injured, scratch marks last twice as long. Right now, you don't leave scratch marks in endgame. That's basically useless. There's only one of you, and if it's the endgame, you're probably injured. So, you leave pools of blood and you're loud. So, like, it doesn't do anything. And even if it does, even if you're healthy and you don't leave any scratch marks, like, okay. But like, how many times has that saved your life? You know, how many times have you died because of the scratch marks and not because they just saw you? You know? It doesn't make them not see you. You're not invisible like the Wraith. So this would actually give it a reason to be run. Again, skill-based. If you manage to not get injured, if you manage to hide around and stuff, play it safe, cool. You get a huge benefit. But if you get injured, now you have a big problem on your hands. They can find you very easily. Reactive healing. Whenever another survivor loses a health state within 32 meters of you, you gain a 50% boost towards healing yourself and others, instead of gaining health. Because, like, okay, you know, gaining health can be useful, but you can also have Sloppy Butcher and have it do literally nothing. And since the activation is that you have to be near somebody who's getting hurt, like, that's rough. So you should get a pretty big buff. It could even be like 75%. Rebecca. Oh, Rebuyer type is fine. Rebecca, better than new. It's good, but you also gain the bonuses for a small amount of time, 30 seconds. Healing someone else and having them have bonuses is great, but you don't see it. You don't see it at all, unless they heal you immediately after. In which case, cool, but like, that shouldn't be the only time that you get to use something. You know, like that you get to see the benefit of your own perk. So having it be for you as well is great. Plus that way, if you're like all injured and in a corner together, then you can do it to everyone. You know, you can also have it and use it as a bonus for those people. Hyper focus doesn't need to be changed, just great. Reassurance, same thing. Reassurance is super duper good. Vittorio, he is awesome. Love him, love his perks. Only changed them slightly. Fog Bites is perfect. It's great. Potential energy. It now forces you to be unable to dump them into the same generator unless the killer's nearby. And you can't do it while they're undetectable at all, so that doesn't like you can't be like within 10 meters, but you don't see them because they're undetectable, and then the button pops up so you know they're nearby. Like that would be bad. So undetectable means you just can never do it, and you can now stop using potential energy before all stacks are gained on the current generator. That is the worst part of this perk. If you could use potential energy, gain like 8 stacks, and then just go back to repairing the generator like normal, this perk would be so good. But you can't. You have to gain all 20 stacks before you can work on the gen like normal. It's so bad. It's awful. It's so frustrating. It's so close to being an amazing perk, and it's just like okay or good. It has a niche, but it's so close to being super fun and good. So I want to buff it, see if it's too powerful, and we can go from there. Quick Gambit. Instead of applying the bonus to other people, apply it to yourself, because having to be near people while you're doing a chase is bad. If they're a good killer, they'll knock them off the gen, and then the survivors will call you slurs in chat. So they might do that anyway, but you know, that's a good way to have people get really mad at you. So instead, now you gain 0.5% repair speed when you're being chased. For each second, you can have a max of 50%, and then it goes down. Over the course of 8 seconds, you have whatever amount that you had, and then it's good. Then it's gone. So if you had a 20% bonus, you were chased for 40 seconds, and you have a 20% bonus. You have 20% bonus to repairing for 8 seconds, and then it's gone. Basically, it makes people running after you be less powerful. It's still powerful, obviously, to keep someone off of gens, but now you get a little bit of a bonus back. Unlike Skull Merchant, who I feel like their perks are pretty straightforward, I feel like there's still a lot that can be discovered with these people's perks. So I still don't want to put their perks in. I don't want to put in any reworks, any unchanged. Who knows? I think they're still too new. When the next chapter comes out, then I'll decide. General perks, though. Dark Sense and Deja Vu are both great the way they are. They have their reasons to be used. They're more neat. Well, specifically, Dark Sense is more niche, but they can still be useful. Guardian. If it incentivizes you to unhook, you should also be able to unhook faster. Yeah, that's what I think anyway. Hope is great. Inner Healing is fine, but I wanted to buff it so you can see where a Dolt Totem is at all times, and it's the farthest one, so you can't just like somehow get out of the chase real quick and then start one. You have to go to the other corner of the map basically, but sometimes you just have no idea where totems are on that map. You have no clue, so that fixes it. Plus, if you only do like one totem and then next time you get injured you don't see one, you know that they have a bunch of hex totems. So yeah, Kindred, one of the most powerful perks in the game, definitely doesn't need to be changed. Kinship, yeah, this right now is like if someone runs nearby you, then you can have up to a total of a certain amount of seconds depending on how close they are to you, but like it's one of those perks like with Gambit, you just don't want to be chased near somebody else almost ever. It's just not a good time. So instead, benefits you for being a nice guy. More you heal or are healed by other people, you gain tokens, and then your hook timer lasts longer. Lightweight, also good at what it wants to do. No One Left Behind. Current effect, but you get 10% unhooking speed every single gen instead of 50 at the end. So you still have 50 at the end, but you gain 10 for each gen, because right now it doesn't do anything until the end game. Nothing at all. And most of the bonuses aren't even the unhooking. It comes from everything else. So this is just a small buff to make it so that it's not like useless in the early game. Plunderer's effect, increase the range a little bit because it's It's bad. It's a bad perk. If you just want to use it to find chests for your rift, then you should be able to find them a little bit better. Okay. Premonition is like whispers for the killer, but premonition is for the survivor. So you place it down, and then you have a little zone, and you're like, I'm guessing the killer's gonna be here. And if you're right, if your premonition came true, basically, then you get a big confidence boost and you do everything better for 30 seconds. But you can't do it while you're in chase, because that would be stupid. You can just place it right behind you. And your zone disappears if you enter chase. So you can't, like, place it down and then, like, start running, and you place it down, like, right behind you, and then the chase starts and they run into it. Like, now, if the chase starts, it goes away. So you have to guess where they're going to go, like, way beforehand. And, yeah, you can ask if you're in a Swift for someone to help run them into your zone, but if they do that, then they might have to go down, because who knows if you're in the right spot. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that I could see. Basically, again, requiring a lot of skill and decision making to do right. It might be too powerful. If more than one person can have it, maybe it needs to be one of those perks that only one person can have. I'm not sure. Or maybe you just, like, it goes away quicker or something. Like, I don't know. Whatever the case, I think the concept is there. I think it could be cool. Renewal, really good. Resilience, it's like, it's one of those perks that you can't buff a ton, but it's also not like super duper ultra useful, so just give it 1 more %, 10%, nice round even number. See if it's too much. I like the even number better. That you don't really have to change it. It could be 9%. It's fine. Self-aware is good the way it is. Situational awareness, whenever you see the aura of the killer, everyone else gets a notification from what general direction the killer is coming from. Where they are, rather, from their current location. So it's a red arrow on the ground. So, like, hey, the killer is this way. So you know where to look. It might not be super useful all the time, because, of course, the killer can then, like, they can happen to take a different path than where their shortest path is, and then they come around and they still hit you, and you were looking at the wrong spot, right? So it's not 100%, but it's like a little boost for everyone. And of course, you can read the aura. So if you're in a Swift, the perk is useless. Slippery meat. Right. So basically, you get deliverance guaranteed twice. But the hook timer is twice as fast. And you permanently receive the broken effect upon being injured for the first time. That doesn't make sense. I think I wrote this wrong. That doesn't make any sense that you can unhook yourself. Like, why is the hook timer twice as fast? Like, I guess it makes it so that you can't just sit there for super long. But, like, if you're going to gain the endurance bonus and stuff, I don't know. I think that's too powerful. Even if it is twice as fast. Like, then it sort of incentivizes camping too. Yeah. I think what I meant was, or at least what I'm thinking about now, anyway, is that you can not unhook yourself during the second stage. But you can still do it the first time. That's still twice as fast. So, you can't sit there forever, but you get to sit there, and guarantee that you get out the first time. Now, I don't know if the killer should be able to see that it's twice as fast. I think maybe they shouldn't for the first one, but then they can for the second one, so that you have a reason to, like, because otherwise they might just camp you and then, like, hit you, and so you go into mending, right? And then just follow you and try to kill you or whatever, which is like not fun. So I think I'm gonna add that in just for the first one, but for the second one, if you got caught again after getting guaranteed on hook for yourself, then that's, you know, they can still try to save you, but they have to do it quicker. So yeah, I'm gonna put that in. You also, the speed of the on hook timer is looks normal to the killer for the first hook. There we go. Small game. You can see the aura of dull totems within 12 meters. There you go. Why have a sound effect? Like, okay, most of the time you can find it, and if you can't, then it feels really stupid. So yeah. But only works for dull totems. The audio cue is for hex totems. There you go. Totems take longer to do because you can find them easier. That makes sense. Spine, chill, current effect, but bonuses are 10%. Just like before. With resilience, nice round number. And on top of that, spine chill happens only when you're getting looked at from a certain distance. So if they're not looking at you, then it doesn't work. If they're undetectable, then it doesn't work. And you only have it while they're looking at you, which means they're probably coming for you. So having 10% for like 2 seconds is not that useful. It's way better than whatever it is right now, though. This is not happening. While injured, great skill checks give you a 3% bonus instead of 1%. Right now, it makes the great skill check zone bigger, which is like not useful if you're good at the game. So this is useful. Well, make it is one of the best perks in the game. So there you go. That's it, everybody. It's every perk, every general perk, every survivor perk, every killer perk, every killer power, reworked, redone. Those are my concepts. Those are my ideas. Those are my thoughts. Obviously, some of them aren't perfect, even while we're going through here. Clearly, I redid some as we were going along. I found out that I either just like wrote something wrong, or I didn't write enough information, or whatever, you know. I'm not a game developer. I'm not perfect, but I think having these ideas out there is like somebody in the community just, you know, interested in new perk ideas, new concepts, new ideas is something that is worth sharing. Something that is worth having out there, and even if the devs never see this, or nobody big in the community ever sees this, nobody like really is even that interested in what I have to say. Even if they do look at it and they decide that everything I said was stupid and garbage and unbalanced, like, okay, but at least they have the ideas out there. They see new ideas. They have new concepts that they might be able to rework into new perks, you know? I think it's worth the sharing of knowledge for science and creativity. That being said, this is the end of this paper. So I'm going to move on to my other paper, which is about generators. Before I move on, I want to make it very, very clear. This paper is completely separate from the generator paper. The generator paper has nothing to do with this paper. I wrote the generator paper first, even. And this is assuming that generators, this paper right here that we're still on, is assuming that all the generator stuff is the exact same. While the generator paper assumes that all of the perk stuff is like it is in vanilla and not like in this paper. So, just want to make that very clear before I move on. They're not mixed together. I did not consider these perk changes when writing the gen paper, and I did not consider the gen paper when writing these perk changes. Cool, cool? Cool, cool. I want to talk about why gens are boring, first and foremost. They're just the same thing over and over again, basically. You basically want to do chases because they're fun, engaging, skill expressive, and different per killer, while generators are the same for everybody. The only kind of difference is maybe like Plague puking on a gen, but even then, like the way you do the gen doesn't change. You just might pick a different gen. you know? It's like you want all the things that you get from a chase, all the fun, engaging, skill expressive stuff from doing gens as well. So, here's what I do. First, I want to talk about what all the issues are in greater detail than that, because obviously that was very vague. APM is super low. You're sitting there, and you hold left click, and then you press spacebar, and you move your mouse around a little bit, or your stick if you're on controller. That's it. Getting good skill checks is super easy. Getting great skill checks is a little bit harder, but it's like still basically the same thing. And you sit there and you press spacebar once every blue moon and you hold down left click. That's it. There's nothing big, nothing huge, nothing different ever. And it's so slow. And it's completely inconsistent as well. So you have no idea. Like, if you're going to be sitting there hitting spacebar for like 7 different skill checks or once. The amount of skill checks you receive and how frequently they appear is also very bad. Because they're infrequent and random, and like the amount of attention you give to it is like off. You should be, the point of doing the generators is to keep you occupied and scared basically while the killer is around. So what you want to do is you want to have skill checks that occur at fixed intervals so that you know when they're coming, so that you know how to pay attention. But you want them to be super frequent so that you can't just ignore them also. Because yeah, if they came every 20% or 25% or something, then yeah, you still wouldn't have to pay attention most of the time. But if they come quicker than that, then it becomes a point where you have to actually be paying attention like all the time. And makes it harder to look around for the killer, which actually keeps you scared. So there's that. Finding gens sucks as well for newer players. Veterans don't have a problem because they know every single map and every single gen spawn and stuff. But as a newer player, it's one of the biggest hurdles that is unfun to get over. Learning how to chase is fun. Learning how to hit great skill checks even can be enjoyable as opposed to getting just good skill checks all the time. Finding generators isn't fun. You feel like you have to run Deja Vu or Rookie Spirit or something like that. But like, learning the layout sucks. You already have to learn the layout of the map and where pallets spawn and stuff. Why do you also have to figure out where gens are? The thing that you should be able to do basically whenever you're not getting chased. You know, I think that that's a little silly. Next up is variety, which I talked about a little bit. You do the same thing every single time. You hold down left click and you press spacebar. You don't do anything else. Nothing else ever. You can have slight alterations with like Merciless Storm, but like that's it. That and like overcharge and stuff, and like there's barely anything. It's the same thing still. Even you're still just hitting spacebar just more frequently. It's the game has been out for like 6 years. Like they really haven't changed it at all. Like it seems crazy, you know. It's so samey for so long. No good, I say. We need more stuff, more variety. Lastly, just like with the perks, luck. Luck sucks. Luck is annoying. You're always going to find it in some capacity, but lowering the luck is better. Sometimes you can let go of a gen, and it'll blow up because the skill check showed up at the exact same time you let go. And that's stupid and annoying, unlucky, and unfun. So I say get rid of that. That's awful. The only option to make it so that that doesn't ever happen is to sit there forever. Because if you get grabbed off the gen, well, then you don't lose the progress. And if you never let go, then you can never let go to have the explosion happen, right? But obviously getting grabbed off the gen is totally not worth saving the percentage. Like, you have to go away, you know? It's just super unlucky, and luck isn't fun, like I said. So here's the concept, split up into parts. I'm going to go one part at a time and try to be as thorough as I can. Gens can now not be started by default. They're missing a power source. So you can't just immediately walk over to a gen and start repairing it. You have to find a power source somewhere in the trial grounds and start working on a generator. When you're within 10 meters, the source's aura will be revealed so they don't like blend in. If say they're really brown and then they blend in with like brown grass or something, now the aura is revealed so that doesn't become a problem. Once a source is picked up, the nearest gen is highlighted for a survivor, so that solves the problem I talked about where you can't find any gens as a new player. You can apply it to any generator though, it doesn't have to just be the highlighted one. The highlighted generator won't change though, so you only get to see the one. So if you're a skilled player, then you still have the skill expression, right? If you're a veteran, of finding a different generator. You don't have to just go to the highlighted one. There are only 3 sources in the trial grounds at any one time. So 3 power sources. So you can only be doing 3 gens at any one time because you can only have 3 power sources in a gen at a time. The source starts with about 5% charge, and the progress of the gen is applied to the source instead. Once a gen is completed, you can't remove the source, but you can move it from a gen at any point before completion and will retain whatever charge it had in the previous gen. So what that means is if you're getting hard fucking 3-gen and there's somebody just like stalling out these gens over and over and over again, what you can do is you can all pile like a bunch of stuff onto one gen, and then even if they want to stay there and stop it, you can take the source out and move it to one of the other gens. Obviously, for some killers like Skull Merchant right now, the 3 gens are way too difficult to break, but if it's a killer who's has a reasonable amount of 3-gen potential, then the ability to move the source can do a lot. You can be doing it, they can check the gen, see that there's no source in it, go find a different gen because they think you're working on a different gen. You can walk back to that gen and put the source back in, so you can't get 3-gen as hard, you know? There's a lot of potential for stuff to be made if you can move the sources around that get the percentages instead of the actual gens themselves. So that's the first part. You have to find a power source first. The reason it starts with a little bit of power is because it might take you a long time to find the first one. Repairing gens is different. You hold M1 for 8%, just like the way you normally do. You hold down M1, it does a little bar for 8%, but a prompt pops up after 8%. The gen won't progress anymore at that point. You have to interact with the prompt. If you leave the gen while the prompt is there, it won't explode. It's fine. Just like if you leave while you're building it up, it won't explode, ever. Once a prompt is chosen though, it will explode if you leave before you're done with whatever the prompt asks. The prompts involve having a basic skill check and a difficult skill check. So you get to choose whether you want to do a basic skill check or a difficult skill check on this prompt. Before you pick, you can leave at any time. It'll never explode. Gets rid of the luck thing, where sometimes you just get a skill check and then you die. You get to choose when you want to do the skill check. The basic skill check allows you to progress the gen and can be completed very quickly. So it's like the current skill check, or like Skull Merchant's drones, how you have to press the buttons in a certain order. Stuff like that, that's super fast, super simple, takes like 2 seconds. Maybe even less. Difficult skill check is more intense though. Takes a longer amount of time to complete. Choosing a difficult skill check will force your view to change so that you can't see as well or hear as well because you're way closer to the gen. So it muffles the killer's tear radius. Difficult skill checks can only be performed basically when you're certain the killer's not nearby. If the killer might be nearby and you do a difficult skill check, there's a good chance that you're going to get caught because you don't hear them in time to let go. And even if you did let go, then it would blow up because you chose to do a difficult skill check when you weren't sure whether or not they were nearby. Difficult skill checks would be things like turning the knobs of the gen, pressing certain wires together, welding parts of the gen, stuff like that. That would be more intense. But if you complete them, you get 2 benefits. First, you go up 8% instantly instead of 1%. And you get a repair token. Repair tokens, you can have 3 of them total. So if you did 3 great skill checks, you would get 3. The tokens can't be lost in any way and can be used on a different generator than the one they were gamed from. Use a repair token whenever you do a basic skill check. So, the number of tokens will increase the effectiveness of your basic skill check by double per token used. So when you have 0 tokens, you don't get any bonus. You just go, you have to hold down M1 until you get to 8%, right? You get a 2% bonus when you have 1 token. You get a 4% when you have 2, and you get an 8, just like a difficult skill check if you have all 3. So basically, real quick recap, you find the power source, you put it in, you get 8%, and then you have a choice between a good or rather a simple or difficult skill check. Pick the simple, you keep going like normal. You pick the difficult, you get a bonus for the next time you do a basic skill check, and you get 8% instantly. Number 6, if 2 survivors are repairing 1 gen, you must choose basic skill check. Both of you have to pick it. You can't do difficult skill checks together. And you both have to either, one of you has to leave, or you both have to choose the prompt and whatever, and all that jazz. Like, basically, you can't, like, cheese it. Like, one person's still working on it while the other person does the prompt, and then they get bonus and what, like, no. You both have to do the prompt, or one of you has to leave while the other person does the prompt. And you can't start working on a gen where somebody is doing a difficult skill check. And there you go. Yeah, there can be an icon like a gear similar to the old eye Skull Merchant used to have. Number 7. Once a gen is complete, the entity will spawn another power source on the map. Because there can only be 3 on the map at one time, right? If a killer stands near a power source for 20 seconds and there are no survivors nearby, the source will move somewhere else. So the killer can't just camp a power source, basically. Which would be hard for them to do anyway, but under the circumstances that something crazy happened, like 3 spawn pretty close to each other, then that way, that doesn't make it so that you instantly get fucked, right? And it also avoids situations where the source is moved before a killer can grab it if the survivors choose to go close anyway, like they just want to grab it out from under them for whatever reason, they can. That's why it only works when no survivors are nearby. So if you want it to go away, all of you go. If you want the power source to go somewhere else, you go away from the killer. While the killer's standing on it, the power source will teleport somewhere else. If you want to try and grab it anyway, you can run over there and it'll never teleport away. I'll talk about maybe some specifics, maybe like 18 meters or 10 meters for survival. Like I don't know 100%. Obviously, it's just general concepts. But yeah. Lastly, killers can choose between a normal kick and damaging the power source. If you damage the power source, it takes longer, but the gen will lose more progress, but it won't regress, and it can't be kicked still until the survivor touches it. So you can't kick it and make sure it regresses like immediately after. You have to wait for somebody to touch it. But the next time the survivor gets on the generator, they have to perform a basic skill check right then and there. And it doesn't give any bonuses. It won't use any tokens. It won't do anything except allow you to work on the gen again. So, go over in detail real quick how this addresses current issues. Variety, obviously, it changes a bunch, assuming that there's 5 different skill checks per type. That means there's 10 total skill checks, 5 difficult skill checks, and 5 simple skill checks. That would give you a ton of things to think about, constantly keep you on edge, because you have to be worrying about the skill checks on top of the killer. So it gives you a lot more to think about. And having more buttons to press, like having to do the movement keys for the Skull Merchant version, or having to like move your mouse to do the knobs or whatever for the difficult one, would be a lot more interesting than just pressing spacebar over and over again. And you get to make decisions. You get to express your skill by choosing which skill check to check. You know? You get to choose what you want to do, as opposed to having to just do the same thing over and over again. You get to choose between a simple or difficult. You don't get to choose which one of the simple or difficults you get. That's what keeps you on edge, but you get to choose. APM obviously would be bigger. If every 8% you have to do something, that one's pretty simple. Consistency, if it's every 8%, you never have to worry about leaving and then it blowing up randomly. You always get to choose. You always make the decision whether or not you think you can do the skill check in time. So if it blows up, that's your bad, basically, or the killer was hiding or something, in which case they chose to be undetectable and hide. So that was their skill expression coming out as well. The power system makes it so that everybody gets to explore the map, and you get to see new parts of the map that you don't normally see. It helps new players learn about the map because they actually have a reason to go look around instead of just sit at a gen or run around trying to find a gen and then just sit there and not learn anything. So that's super useful. And as a veteran, there might be spots in the map that you just like, you don't even know about, because like, why would you go to that corner with like one Z-wall? Like, there's no reason, you know, but you might see some detail you missed because you just never go over there, but now you have a reason to because maybe the power source spawned over there. Lastly, luck is no longer a factor because the gen won't blow up. Again, unless you choose to pick a skill check at that given time. And if you choose to do a difficult skill check and you end up getting grabbed or hit or whatever, you chose to do the difficult skill check. You chose to. So, still you're bad. And I want to mention something that, well, I'll mention in part 1, which is about 3 gens. It's like, it's really annoying that that happens. The power source system will help mitigate that somewhat because you can move them around. But the main issue is maps. That's really where the 3-gen issue comes out. So that's more of a map design thing that the map people would have to work on. Like, and of course, certain killer powers like Skull Merchant are too powerful at it, but for the most part, it's like a map will spawn 3 gens right next to each other, and you're like, okay, well, what do I do? You know, it doesn't matter what you do, the gens, unless you make it so survivors can instantly complete a gen, like with the old brand new part, you'll never be able to break 3 gens if they're too close to each other. So that's more of a map thing. Basically, that's everything I had to say. It doesn't solve everything. It's not perfect. Maybe some of the numbers have to be changed. Maybe you need 4 power sources. Maybe your skill check tokens would need to be better. Maybe having your tear radius obscured is too powerful for the difficult skill checks. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of ifs that we don't know about because obviously this hasn't been implemented. But I think this is a great idea to try and fix a lot of the luck bullshit and a lot of the boring, monotonous, tedious system of doing gens the way they are now. Like, even if they didn't do a massive overhaul like this, I do think it's unacceptable that the gens have been this same for 6 years. Like, what? They've been the exact same. There has been, like, no change to the actual base generators. Like, at all. There have been changes to perks, certainly. Those perks have changed a lot of stuff. Ruin used to be completely different, made doing skill checks a nightmare. Like, things were completely different back then when it came to perks, but not to the base generator. The base generator was always the same. If a killer didn't run a perk back in 2018, it would be the exact same as if they didn't run any perks right now. The way you do generators would be the exact same. That's crazy. I think that's unacceptable. So that's why I came up with these crazy ideas. Crazy rework. Crazy change to a bunch of stuff. Gave my thoughts on it. Below, I do have a part where I talk about maybe some of the nitty-gritty stuff. But it's super experimental. It's definitely like, this is like the part of the paper that matters. This is the concept, the idea, fleshed out enough, but vague enough that it could be expanded upon, right? The other part is just like, what if I tried, right? What if I tried, even though we don't know anything? What if I tried to do like individual numbers and stuff? Like, that it's there for fun, but this is the big important thing. It solves the big issues, especially the luck issue that sucks ass, where you let go and it blows up. That is so annoying. And especially the monotony issue, where you're just pressing spacebar over and over again. Whew. Okay. With that being said, that's it. That's all I got. I'm done with this. After this, I'm going to go back to normal streams, playing DBD, playing other games. My next super big, interesting stream, I think, will be when Street Fighter 6 Open Beta comes out. Comes out, I believe, on the 19th. I'm going to be playing that a ton. I'll probably stream it just for fun. Show off my very poor skills. I'm not super good, but I love the game. I've played the demo a lot. And yeah, that's everything. See you guys later. Bye-bye.